War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Hello, everybody. So Arthur Jones Show. I am he. It is the Midday Connection. Hey, how y'all is? Come on in. The water is fine. National School Walkout. Folks are getting upset about it. I got mixed emotions. My emotions are mixed up like putting different types of food favorites in a bowl and stirring it up and giving it to yourself. Wakanda forever. I don't know what's going on, and then I do know what's going on. I do know that some of these Republicans are upset about this march here in Chicago. Hello, how you doing, Tamara? Folks are upset about the march. Many of them love the march. They support it because the children are doing it, and the children are going to be the ones who are going to run this nation. They may not be the ones sitting in the rotunda of Congress, but they sure are the ones that are the most vocal and are doing stuff. So let's talk about it for just a few minutes if we can, and see what's going on in the world of politics and social observance, or whatever you want to call it. Gun control, and this mayhem, and dysfunction, and the word desensitization that's happening among the youth and some of y'all as well. We know that what happened in Florida, 17 children, not just children, I think a couple grown-ups, lost their lives to a shooting. Devastated us all. We don't care what color you were. It devastated America, if not the world. And the politicians are sitting in Congress laughed at the ones who decided that they were going to rally and do marches, and they says these kids can't. They're too young and inexperienced to call together anything that will unify anybody. And here they are, all over America. Oops, they're here, and those kids will be the ones in danger if teachers are armed. Tamara, I just got a message. I emailed an article of a man whose revolver went off and hit a student. He was a teacher, he was trained, and he was in school. So the mess is already happening, and they didn't even pass no laws yet. It's already a mess. Yeah. I'm watching the Fox 32. This is our local affiliate here. And here's what it's saying here. These Republicans, local Chicago Republicans, are a little upset about all of this. See if I can play this.
Death of Commander Paul Bauer and the deadly shooting at the Parkland, Florida high school. The Chicago Republican Party is preparing to sue CPS over today's planned school walkouts. They are calling the demonstrations political indoctrination in violation of the First Amendment. The Florida high school shooter is due in courts today. Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty for his attorneys say Cruz would be not guilty if
political indoctrination.
Cruz wants a sentence of
political indoctrination. How dare you use our kids to go against our guns? You know the NRA got a lot of money. They have a lot of persuasion. They have a lot of power. Hey Greg, how you doing? And they're the ones that are saying things. I also got a message that says the walkout is open to American students, teachers, and staff, but the idea originated with Empower. That's the movement. That's the youth branch of the Women's March. Empower. That's the name of it. It's the youth branch of the Women's March, and it's the main national voice encouraging people to participate. The organization's website says more than 2,500 walkouts were planned or are planned. Yeah. Funny though, how this stuff is tied into each other, isn't it? Ooh-wee. You need to sit with your children and walk them through the steps of that which is social. I also got messages, see, people hit me up because they know I'm going to do these shows, that many of these kids use it as an opportunity to start robbing these businesses. Yeah, the businesses were being robbed while those hundreds of kids were out there. So you know you're going to have some rebel rousers out there. Among those who are doing what they feel is right, you're going to have a few bad apples. It happens. When those black men were shot by this police, and those kids did peaceful marches, then there were those who were throwing rocks and breaking glass and running over grocery stores. There's going to be a few of those bad apples. But the news will show the bad apples as a representation of all of them. That's the sad part about it all. So we have a problem here that I want to talk about. All right. In Chicago, 3 schools did a walkout. 3. St. Sabine, I think, was one. And it was 2 others did a walkout. 3. Why didn't the others walk out? I know, okay. Here's the statistics for the Chicago schools. Chicago is a big city. I think it's about 2.7 million people here. It's a lot of people. Here's the statistics. There are 660 schools in Chicago. 660. That is the number as of 2015. There are 396,000 students here in Chicago. Yeah. Out of those students, there's 21,000 teachers. All right? That's a 17-to-1 ratio, I believe. That's a lot of schools. That's a lot of teachers. That's a lot of students. But 3 schools did a walkout in Chicago. There's a reason why. Blessings to you, Dre. There's a reason why. Okay, here's what they did. They did a walkout for the 17 that were killed in Florida. And they did balloons. And they did a moment of silence. And they all kind of symbolic things. And they spent an extra 2 minutes to give observance to those who were killed senselessly. I can't say the word. That's funny. I've never tried to not say that word. Anyway, to Chicago violence. They spent 2 extra minutes for that. You know, it's always difficult for us who live in Chicago to defend or to talk against someone here in Chicago when we decide to join forces with another state on that which is relevant to our situation, like crime and guns and killings. When St. Louis had this issue down there, many of the people here were doing walks for St. Louis. The people here was having moments of silence for St. Louis. The civil rights leaders were leaving here and taking buses and going down into St. Louis to march for St. Louis. And many of you got upset about that. I got upset about some things were handled. Now, here's one side, here's the other. Number one, there are many of our civil rights leaders here, community leaders here, are always out there on that street trying to help the situation, trying to stop these things from happening. They have saved a lot of lives. I believe these community leaders have done it. They're always out there. You don't see them, and it's not popular to show them on the news. Those of you who don't live in Chicago, there are many great men and women in Chicago. They're either pastors of churches, or they are politicians, or they're community leaders. They are community organizers like Barack Obama was, and they're knocking on doors, and they're trying to do preventive measures to stop. They're adopting these children. They're building community centers, and they're putting their monies and hard-earned monies and time. And even their families sometimes suffer so that they could help in this crime. So please, Don't be dogmatic to say that there's the crime is up in Chicago, but nobody's doing anything about it. Many community leaders are doing stuff about it. I'm one of them today because I go out there on that street myself, and I adopt y'all's kids, and I raise many of your kids because that's my ministry. That's the way I give back. Not so much by walking the street, but what I do is behind curtains when you don't know I'm doing it. I'm raising up your children the best way I can so that that kid won't have to walk the street. Okay, so that's my way of giving back. You found your own special way of helping as well. So that's this side. But this side is there are many people who ain't doing nothing in Chicago. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what they will do, though, is they'll get on the bus and go over to some other state because a white cop killed a black kid. That's the problem. Disarming agenda using the children. Disarmament agenda. Yep, using the children. Michael Fisher. Yep. Yeah. And I see this disdain on that. You're using the children for your political and social awareness and things like that. Yeah, and I get that. And I feel a lot of it is that. I feel that some people are doing it because they really want this to stop, but then there are others that are using this as an opportunity to use the children, because you can use, when you use kids, there's two things or persons or elements that you can use to get to pull on the heartstrings of man. Children, animals. In many cases, people are more drawn to animals than they are kids. They'll abuse the kids and save the dog. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, that's why there's an old saying in entertainment: never work with children and animals, because they will always upstage you, because it pulls at people's heartstrings. And so you put a kid on the stage with you, you ain't important no more. I don't care if you are Denzel Washington. You put a kid on that stage, Denzel ain't important no more. So he's got to find clever things to do and say with that kid so the attention could be back on him. Okay? Children. All right? So these kids marched out of those schools to support Florida. Funny thing, though. All these kids got killed in Chicago this year alone. It's only March, and our count is high. Although it's down from last year, it's still high. All these kids got killed last year. I don't remember seeing anybody marching in the other 49 states for Chicago. I watch the news all the time. Every day, almost all day, when I'm home, I watch the news. And I rarely ever have experienced anybody marching a school march out, walk out. Now, here's why you won't see it. Because school shootings don't happen in Chicago. Yeah. School shootings don't happen in Chicago, and it don't happen among black kids. The black kids, they leave school and shoot you up. But they won't do it inside of school. No. You'll see on the news where there was a gun found in the bathroom or in the book bag of some kid, but he brought it up there for protection. But he don't go around shooting everybody. You see, there is a problem that I see among, now here I'm going into the color scheme, y'all. You know me. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go up and dig up in this color scheme, and it's not gonna sit right with some of you who are Caucasian. But I've noticed that there is something that African Americans can take a little bit more of the pressure and the stress from some things, more so than many of these white kids. These white kids, they can't take it. They see things that they can't take. So they have to express it by shedding blood in a gory way. If you look at many of the shows that are written whether it's on TV or whether it's in the movies. They're written by Caucasians, and they write the most glorious of scenes. They present to America the things that the African Americans say, I will never indulge in any of that kind of practice. Even in pornography, you'll see the white people do some of the most glorious things, even in pornography, with animals. And you will rarely ever see black people indulge in any of that kind of stuff. It used to be a time that the suicide rate was astronomical among white folks. Black folks weren't killing themselves. They were survivors. Now we're seeing more and more black people killing themselves, but it's still not at the rate of what white people are doing. They don't do it. So it's no surprise to me that there are no schools. You would think if there's that many murders in Chicago, why aren't there that many why aren't there any school shootings in Chicago? Why? Can anybody answer that? I know if we can get these same young people to rally around their peers and get them to understand a life of crime is not the way to go, we will be batting over 300. Yeah, I know. Abronia works in the penile system. She works with youth. She go to work every day, and that's what she has to deal with. So she knows. But why is it that there is a desensitized level that's different among whites than it is among blacks? You know that old saying, babies, kids, we don't die, we multiply. Man, we don't play those games. We're able to take, I don't know if it has anything to do with slavery or what, because them slaves, they endured hardship that I believe that many of the whites could not endure. As a matter of fact, that's why the blacks were used for slavery. They tried the Indians, and the Indians wouldn't work out. And the indentured servants and what have you, whites couldn't work out. They could not handle that kind of heat, all right, and pressure. So black folks tag, you were chosen for slavery, and you survived all those hundreds of years through it. Well, we come back from Egypt, you know. That's our people. So we were born into taking this type of abuse through slavery and through Jim Crow, old Jim Crow and the new Jim Crow, and the hangings and the shootings and what have you. We're able to see that stuff and still survive. But I will say there's many people out there that need help, and I have been studying psychology because there's a lot of people in your churches who are suffering with mental illness. You just don't know because you don't know how to tell the signs. But notice when there's a shooting in the school in white areas, they send out therapists and counselors right away to those schools. But you notice when there's a shooting in the streets of Chicago, and these kids see a dead body, they see a bullet in the boy's head, they don't offer counseling for the neighborhood. Yeah. Life imitating art, and the people that manage our narrative tell our most destructive stories, Dre says. Yeah, this is what we can agree on. Dakari, we finally agreeing? I'm shocked and appalled. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And we need to talk about this. So you counselors who here in Chicago, why aren't you going to the scene of the crime like lawyers do? Like the ambulance do? Counselors need to be ambulance chasers like the lawyers. But you won't do it. Because if you counsel some of these kids who saw this kind of catastrophe, you might save another life, because that kid will grow up in an environment of killing and think, this is the way to survive. And these kids go out there shooting because they saw a shooting, a killing, and they interpret that killing or shooting as something that is the norm of their neighborhood, the survival of the fittest. And so they begin to join these gangs, and these latchkey kids, they don't know their parents that well. They don't know their father, and so they feel that this is a normal world for them. It's like a lot of women who marry. I wish I was there with you. Doc David Rogers, you know, you can chime in on this. All you got to do is hit the thing, and I can bring you in. Wait, let me see now. I can bring you in, bro. In here now. Now, if you in the bathroom and taking a shower, don't come in. But I'm tagging you. If you getting the message, I want you to come in and talk about this. Deep conversation. Very painful. It is very painful. Absolutely. So we're joining forces with Florida, and we trying to figure out why are you joining forces with Florida by having these kids march out of school. And trust me, many of these kids are failing in school. All right, I'm going to stop adding you. Let me know if you want to come in here, Dr. David Rogers. Many of these kids are failing in school. They love today. They couldn't wait to leave school. Yeah, they couldn't wait to get out of there. And these kids went out there, and some of these store operators said their stores are being robbed by these kids. Not all of them. Many of them, they feel that they're doing good. But when you see a kid who is socially conscious on things that are going on, especially outside his community, this would be the great time for you parents to rally around your children, to teach them what to do with all of that pent-up energy and this information that's been given to them by their schoolmates and the school system and television. Johanna says that was my point. What and how does something like this impact the youth in Chicago? It seems they are always left behind. Johanna says, yeah. Did the NRA shut you down? Tamara, what are you talking about? We still here? Or bad feed? Oh, yeah. It's a bad feed, y'all. I'm so sorry. I can see it on my end because I have a monitor here. But looks like my monitor. Yeah, I see what my monitor is doing. For those of you who are still here, I don't know what happened. It's the internet. The NRA shut me down. We are putting on a mock funeral. Spencer Leak will be there to talk about what the young people and parents need to do financially. Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened. I seem to have froze up for some of you. Let me try and turn my my phone to data because I'm using my Wi-Fi here in the house, and you know sometimes my Wi-Fi ain't acting right. Okay, you say I'm back? All right. Okay, I'm gonna try it again, David Rogers. I pray that it don't freeze again. Yeah, let's see. Bring David Rogers back in. All right, I'm tagging you in here, Doc. I need you to speak to the people, whatever you have. Can any of you? All right.
You see me?
See, there he is. Reverend?
Yes, sir.
You there, bro?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, man?
Grace and peace.
Peace and blessings to you. All is well.
God bless you. I'm trying to learn how to use this thing.
Yeah, well, you've done this before.
Yeah.
You've done this before. Yeah, we got questions, man, and we need to find out because there is you know what the narrative is. Why do we join forces with other states and cities when we tend to have the same issue? That it's still a gun issue, and the guns are being used over there in one way in schools. Over here, it's used another way on the street.
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't hear about it. School shootings in Chicago, you really don't hear about it unless there's a gun left in some kid's bag. Other than that, these kids here use their frustration a different way to get revenge. Help us out on this narrative.
Well, being an activist in the city, far away is safer for a lot of people than up close and personal, because when you have to deal with violence in the city of Chicago, you also then have to deal with those who are called to address it and won't. And so people don't like being called on the carpet for being absent in the actual dealing with what's going on in our city. So it's great. You know, we applaud everybody, just what they're doing in Florida, what's happening in Pennsylvania, what's happening in California, Arizona. We applaud, we stand behind these kids because they have enough courage to actually say something, and they mean it. But they're putting us to shame, because here are kids, and again, it's not, you know, church-based, it's not Christianity, it's not a call to spirituality. It's just a call to just having moral fiber. And you have 16, 15, and 17-year-old kids since February the 14th have made it their business to take a national cry up about it. And then we got pastors in the city of Chicago with 1,000 shootings every 3 months that won't say anything, that won't connect with anybody to saying anything. They won't work with us on jobs programs. They won't work with us on intervention programs. When people get shot, we have to go out. A lot of people don't know what we do because we don't advertise it, you know, but when there's shootings in the city, we have to go to those places and we have to deal with the people that's out there. Because if you shoot my brother, now I'm coming to shoot your brother. So we got to get in the middle of that. Not all pastors are called to it, but hey, man, what we're doing. We're trying to create jobs. We're trying to create businesses. Support that. Don't just be absent until something happened to your kid and then you on Facebook Live, you know, with the charge. This gun issue is a real issue because the two sides, and I'm going to give you two sides of it, because I'm of course, I'm a former police officer, so I know that part. And then I grew up on the south side of Chicago, so I knew that part. Let me say this for all of you who are Second Amendment rights people. Nobody is calling for you to give up your guns. That's the first thing, because when people hear things, they hear it from the filter that they're protecting. Nobody is claiming that somebody's going to come to your house and take all your guns. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is this 19-year-old that shot these kids in Florida bought his guns legally as a 19-year-old American citizen with a mental problem, with a criminal problem. He had a criminal background. He had been kicked out of the school that he had murdered all these kids in. And he was allowed to go and purchase a gun. The owner of Sporting Goods, who decided after this that they were going to change the rules on how they govern their business, looked into their records and discovered they sold his boy a shotgun. Thank God he didn't use the shotgun he bought at Dick's Sporting Goods in this crime. But he went and purchased an AR-15 at 19 years old. He can't even buy a beer. You got to be 21 to buy a beer. I've never heard anybody with a can of beer massacring a whole school. We've got to understand what's being said. Nobody is taking your guns. Nobody's even suggesting that. What we are suggesting is there needs to be mental capacity. There needs to be mental capacity to carry level weapon. An AR-15 is a military weapon. It is not a hunting rifle. It is not a sports rifle. An AK-47 is a military weapon. A MAC-10 is these weapons are being sold legally to criminals across our country. That's what we're saying. You need to be able to shoot. When I was on the police department, we had to qualify with the 9mm. You have people now that are buying weapons that can't even shoot. They're not even qualified. In the military, every weapon that we had, you had to qualify. A marksman, expert, or master of your firearms. That's pistols, machine guns, everything that we use in terms of a weapon, we had to qualify on. You have psychopaths that can't qualify that are purchasing weapons. These are the things that we're talking about. Why does a guy that's 67 years old need 37 and over 25 5,000 rounds of ammunition because he plans on going to Vegas and shooting 600 people inside of 10 minutes. So for all of those who are saying it's not a gun issue, it's a people issue. Okay, if he was throwing rocks out of the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, we wouldn't have 50 deaths and over 550 people injured. It is a gun issue. Martin Luther King was killed with a gun. Malcolm X was killed with a gun. So a chance of a person stabbing a whole school to death is slim to none. But a person coming in with a machine gun and shooting 30 rounds every 2 seconds is a danger and a hazard. And we need to really understand the magnitude of what these kids are dealing with because they were in the school dealing with it. Those of us who are on the police department, we dealt with it every day in Inglewood, every day in the Robert Taylor homes. And so we need to understand the arguments and we need to understand what legislators are being asked to do in Washington, D.C. that they have not done since Sandy Hook. The guy went in there and killed 20 kindergartners. No gun legislation has been passed. I challenge anybody to look at what Bill Clinton passed in 1993. He passed a ban on assault weapons. From 1993 to 2004, there were three mass shootings.
Yep.
From 1993 to 2004. The second that the assault gun ban was lifted in 2004 up until present day 2018, we've had over 500 mass shootings, not mass stabbings, not mass bombings. I challenge anybody to find me a school that was bombed because people say, well, people will bomb, they'll drive over people with the cars. Okay, let them do it. Make it hard. We don't want to make it easy for criminals to come and murder our children in schools. And then as far as the gun violence in Chicago, we know where it's from. The gun manufacturers are in cahoots with the politicians who are in cahoots with the street level drug dealers and gun runners. They drop guns off in the alley in Inglewood near the train on 59th and Normal. They drop guns off in the alley on 51st and Paulina. These are manufactured to any level of accountability for what they do. They can just say, oh, our guns got stolen. Well, when I was on NOBLE, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement, we went to Washington, D.C. in 1999 and asked them to microchip guns in the manufacturing so we can trace guns like we trace cell phones. The politicians in Washington, D.C., Democrats and Republicans said no. So for all of y'all that's trying to make this, neither of these political parties care anything about gun control because the prison industrial complex is full of people that's been using guns to commit crime. And crime is the economic engine for the United States of America. We're not producing steel. We're not producing anything. We are producing criminals. And that's why they don't fund mental health. And that's why we spend $89 billion a year on prison and $39 billion a year on education. Put your money where your mouth is. We know what you're trying to do. We understand that. But many of us who have not been educated don't understand it. But that's why I wanted to come on today and share experience and what I've been dealing with, you know, as an activist, dealing in the political arena, and dealing as a police officer in the city of Chicago. This has been my experience, and this is why I left the police department because they weren't really interested in stopping crime. That's not the issue. The issue is pushing political agendas that create money for the wealthy. And until we understand that, we won't understand why the NRA is so powerful, why gun manufacturers have not been called into one legislative meeting with the Congress or Senate to answer for what they produce and what they sell. It's been nothing. So I know I said a lot, but I had to get that off my chest because we need to understand what's going on. We don't understand. We just think it's, oh, we're going to pull the guns off the shelf. No, where they sell illegal guns too. Well, how do they sell illegal guns? Well, the manufacturers are selling them. That's the only way you get them. Ain't nobody breaking into a gun manufacturer and stealing guns because they got guns there, right? So how are illegal guns being sold? We're not having the correct conversations because those of us who are thinkers are being shut out of the conversation. They won't invite me on MSNBC or Fox because they know I'm the truth. So this is our opportunity to share the truth with the people. You need to know what's real.
Amen. You need to know what's really going on. Yeah, I'm glad you came on. I want you to help us with that segment there. Our midday segment don't go that long. I want to try to wind this down here. $89 billion, prison $39 billion. education. Demetri Pitts put the statistics there. $89 billion for prison, and that's both private and prison.
United States
And the longer you stay in there, the more
budget
lucrative it is. You know,
you
you
can
could
look that
have
up
an infraction on your. You could do maybe spit. Yeah, you could spit at an inmate, and they'll keep you longer because you spit an inmate. It's just lucrative how this is happening. So, Apostle, thank you for chiming in on this. For those of you
We love you,
who
man.
you came in late when we end this telecast, just rewind it and hear it. I love you. Thank you. I know it was kind of breaking up live, but when you hear the replay, it won't break up as much, people. Yeah, it won't break up as much. Have an amazing day, Zah.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Yes. That was the great David Rogers, who I consider one of the most impactful men in the city of Chicago, who his church, gosh, you need to come here to Chicago to see what the work that he's doing over there on 113th in Edbrook. It is amazing work. And for those of you, now I want to end this by saying there is a profit, Profit, of failure. There's the reason when a person fails, the government profits from this failure. And I want y'all to help me out with this particular portion here. All right, let's talk about the penal system, the prison industrial complex. Let's call it that. If I go out and commit a crime, there are a whole lot of people who getting ready to get paid. And my one crime will keep a whole lot of people paying their mortgages and rents and utilities. Okay? I want y'all to put in the comments and name the people who will profit from my one crime, if you can. The House of Prayer for All Nations Ministries. Thank you, Rondale Williams. He put the address down there. Yeah, it's the new slavery system. I go out there and I steal, let's say, maybe a car or something even smaller than that. Okay? First person who pops on the scene is a police officer. I'm keeping this man working. And then he arrests me. Okay? The person who created or mass-produced those handcuffs, I keep them working. If he's got to tase me, I keep the taser company working. God help if there's a gun used, I keep the gun manufacturers and the bullet makers working. But let's say I survive and he puts me in his SWAT car. I got the automotive people working, all right? And there's a dispatcher that he talks to that says we're on our way to take him in. That dispatcher is working, okay? He got to put gas in that car, the oil industry, okay? It's the profit of failure. And then he takes me to the police station, all right? And somebody usually there to book me, the booking agent, and I ain't talking about hotels, all right, is going to make money off of that, all right? And then they got to strip me and put clothes on me with them numbers on it. Well, the clothing industry, all right, and they're going to put me in a cell, and they're going to probably give me a sandwich. The food industry, okay, there's some ladies, old ladies down there making those sandwiches. They're working. You see what I'm saying? And then I go to the cell, and all the things that the cell and that needs operating. Okay, once I go see a judge, that's a whole another crew of people that I keep working. First of all, the lawyer that I talk to, he's working. The prosecutor, she stays working because that I stole a car. And then there's the bailiff, he's still working because I stole a car. And then there's the stenographer, is that what you call them? she or he is still working, and there is the judge, he or she is working. That gavel, whoever made that gavel, still working because I stole a car. And then they take me back, and then these people are going to be working month after month after month because I'm going to continue to keep going back and forth and extending dates and possibly go to trial. All right? And, well, here you go. And let's not even count, well, let's count if I get out on bond, the person who issued the bond is working, okay? And then whether I win the case or lose the case, see, all of those people, there's about 20 people that I encountered already because I stole one car. Now, that it's a lucrative business. So David Rogers is correct. It is a prison industrial complex, and everybody's making good money. The medical industry works the same way. I'm getting ready to release a video that myself and Beatrice Carter produced when she was here in Chicago about the medical industry. Beatrice, I know you thought I forgot. Oh, I ain't forgot. It's on my list. That works the same way because I believe there is a cure for cancer. I believe there's a cure for most of these so-called deadly diseases. I believe it. But it is not lucrative to heal everybody. And I don't care who you are in your medical profession. I believe I'm talking with truth here. There are people over in other countries who don't have to suffer with the stuff that Americans suffer with. No. It's hard to find a sick Asian. Whether he's from China or Japanese or India, it's really kind of hard to find sick people from the Mediterranean. It's just kind of hard to find them. They might be out there, but they live in America, unfortunately, okay? America is the most unhealthiest nation in the world. We waste the most in the world, and we're #1 for antidepressant drugs and opioids in the world, and we have more people in prison in America than anywhere in the world. We have the worst gun problem in America than anywhere in the world. So what's going on? It's America. It's a profit for failure. Alvin Carter, he has another statement, and I need to find out what he says. It's brilliant. The drug makers would not exist if people were cured. Come on. Government as a whole, the whole system around us saying. Demetri Pitt says guards, the government, local, county, state, food contract services, pharmaceuticals. Oh yeah, the pharmaceuticals and the drug makers in the jail. They said that they're outside of the mental hospitals. The jail is the #2 largest place where mental illness drugs is used in the prison. There are more mentally ill people, second to the mental ill hospital, that's in prison than anywhere in the country. Now that's something. What are you saying here? Yeah, police, judges, jail personnel, Carol says. Yeah, that's a problem. That's an issue. So David Rogers says things that y'all may see as controversial. But he's right. We live here. We see this stuff. It is lucrative to get those guns into the communities. It's really lucrative. I mean, how else? And if I was crooked and in business, I would do the same thing. Look at the NRA. Why would you think the NRA would put that much money into Donald Trump's campaign? He is the only man that they put that much money into. They put multi-millions of dollars in this man's campaign because they knew that he was standing for what they believed. He did a news conference and said, y'all scared of the NRA? I ain't. Some of y'all fell for the rope-a-dope. because look what he said. He says, we're going to raise the age. And he went, and then he met with the NRA a couple of days ago, and all that went out the window. He changed his mind. How did he change his mind? They changed his mind. The biggest gang in the world is not the Crips or the Bloods. That NRA is, outside of maybe the police force, is the biggest and most powerful gang that I know. It's the NRA. And they got money, power, prestige, and they are in the coffers, pockets of those who you voted in office. That's why, notice at the beginning of this, that the GOP of Chicago wants to sue the Chicago public schools for indoctrinating these kids to do a walkout. Why is it the GOP doing it? N-R to the A. See, they saying it's all about morality. There is no political force that I know that operates in morality. That's their focus. It's all about morality. There's nothing in politics that I know about morality. Nothing. Everything America does is about your money, from taxes to prison, Demetrius says. All right. So they want to use. So one side might be using the kids, but then they want to sue because they're using the kids themselves. It's really an amazing, brilliant rope-a-dope trick here. Okay. So let's close this down because I want you guys to go back and rewind and hear what Pastor David Rogers says. He like Shantae and my fact checkers, and they say things that I don't think to say, because they in a certain type of trench. I'm in another type of trench, and we bring our trenches together. We're the trench coat mafia. Okay, hit the share button and share this on your wall so that we can talk about this narrative, because all day long you're going to see news, whether it's MSNBC or CNN or your local affiliates, going to be showing these people marching. Now, Fox News, though, when you watch it, their narrative is going to be different. Watch the negativeness on what they say about, even if they're saying correct, but watch the negativity against it, because it's against that whole flow of the NRA and that whole gun thing. That they want to shut that down. If you're watching and you live here in Chicago, I want to say shame on you, especially if you're a pastor, because you're spending too much time on preaching and teaching prosperity to give to a particular local ministry on Sundays, and Monday through Saturday you ignore your flock. You don't visit them. You don't set up little schools. I ain't talking about open up a building. I'm not saying you have to do that. You can go rent out a library. You can go into one of the churches that might have a multi-purpose hall or do something and do a seminar and to empower your flock. You can do it. You can teach them. I'm getting ready to do a video on Paul Morton upset a musician the other day. I don't know if y'all saw it. The musician was on the organ, and Paul Morton, and his thing about it, Bishop, is he a bishop? Well, he embarrassed the musician. We don't know what Paul Morton preached. We don't know the subject matter. All we know is that he embarrassed the musician, because the musician couldn't catch him because he was tuning up. And he says, is there a musician in the house? And he threw shade to the musician, and everybody like, oh my God. And that video went viral. So last night, a bunch of bishops in New York and pastors and musicians got together in a room to discuss it. It's about 3 hours long, and if you want a copy of it, or you want me to tag you in it, I can, because Shantae tagged me in it. And they were discussing about how shade was thrown on them because of what Paul Morton said. One man got up and said something that I wish that I could just ring across many of you black churches especially. The man got up and says, if you are banking on the church to take care of all your financial needs, you crazy. I've been telling y'all this forever. If you have one source of income, just one, and that one source of income is your church on Sunday morning, something's wrong with your theology. You heard Tamara? You wanted to, Jamar? I can't pronounce your name. I know it's Razor. Okay? Yeah, but if you got one source of income, you're not thinking properly, and something could happen where that church could close down. Ask me how I know. Happened to me. That was my one source of income, and when the church closed or they let me go, I had nothing. I couldn't survive because I did not build multiple streams of income. At least have 3 streams, right? But you got one. So these musicians got one stream, and they've been doing it for many years. Now they're older, and they got nothing behind them. Nothing but memories behind them. All they got behind them is church hurt and thousands of dollars that they made, but they have nothing to show for. And many of these musicians who were bringing home $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a week, many of them still live home with their parents, or they live with their brothers or sisters. They might be in the basement, or they might be living in a garage. I know some musicians who are living in their cars, and they make big money. They have nothing to show for it, and much of their money is going towards some child support, okay? And so they jump from church to church, whoever was the highest bidder, and they've got a 400 FICO score, and it's bad, it's horrible, all right? So if you really care about your flock and this dysfunction in America, in your city especially, you can help a kid one at a time. Why don't you work with the people who are with you in your church right now? Sit your musicians down and say, listen, here's how I'm making it. Because the church really don't pay me enough for me to have this car and this house and this. No, the church didn't give me it. No, I got other streams. Because y'all talked about T.D. Jakes, and he shut y'all down one time. I saw that video. He shut y'all down. He said, man, him and Creflo Dollar said, we had money before we started this ministry. I make my money on books and what have you. That ain't the church. That's me. I'm making my money doing this. A couple of these guys said, I don't even take a salary from the church. I got businesses that I set up. All right. Shutting it down. Thou shalt not embarrass the musician, Tommy says. Yeah, I'm doing that show probably tomorrow. I think y'all can. That one and this shepherding, oh, man, I can't do it. I'm messed up. I'm messing up. All right? But I really want to deal with this musician thing because there's a lot of sensitive musicians out there. They can't take it. They can't take it. And I'm so glad many of y'all didn't come up like I did on the Matty Moss clock. Because you have a shoe in your eye. She had them 3-inch. A shoe would be in your eye, and you just snatched it out your eye. They bandaged you up, and you kept singing. And here I am, known around the country as an accomplished musician and songwriter. Why? Because I manned up. But I will not say y'all should be throwing shoes and embarrassing musicians. No, I'm just saying that this generation is sensitive. Because all more embarrassing musician, they had a meeting. How sensitive is that? All right. Razor, yeah. Y'all sensitive. That's why the parents today is beating the teacher. They ain't beating the children. They beating the teacher who gave the kid an F. Ain't that something? All right, y'all. If you're on YouTube, subscribe or not. Thank you, Doc Rogers. Love you, man. We're gonna hook up again. Peace and blessings to you. This is So What's the Jones Show.